Hey, this is Leo for Actualized.org. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about relationship red flags, how to avoid dysfunctional, intimate relationships. I honestly feel like bad or dysfunctional intimate relationships is one of the biggest hurdles and obstacles that prevents people from self-actualizing and living up to their full potential in life. People waste decades of their life in terrible, toxic relationships that are going nowhere, and they know that they're going nowhere, and yet they're trapped in these relationships and they can't break out. And because of this, they waste so much of their energy. These relationships can become so abusive and so dysfunctional and so toxic, and they just screw with your emotions so much that you're not able to accomplish anything of lasting value in your life. You're not able to focus on personal growth. You're not able to focus on your health. You're not able to focus on your life purpose, on your business, on your career, or even on creating a great family or creating a healthy relationship. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to help you to avoid this. This is a long list. I sat down and I started writing up all these different red flags for how to identify if you're in a dysfunctional relationship, and the list just kept getting longer and longer and longer. But I think it's important to go through it, so here we go. Let's just get right into it. The first red flag, very obvious, is substance abuse. So alcohol, drugs, smoking. Alcohol abuse, terrible. Your relationship is going to fail if your partner is addicted to any of these kinds of substances, right? So be very careful about this. Keep your eyes open. As soon as you see any signs of this overuse of alcohol, I mean, a little bit of alcohol is okay, but overuse of alcohol and then excessive smoking and any kind of drugs, really, you should ditch that relationship. Another one is if your partner is asking to borrow money from you. This should virtually never happen. Never, ever, ever should this happen. If it happens and your partner makes you feel like it's normal or it's okay, or, well, this is just an emergency, so in this situation it's cool, then that's still a really huge red flag. Your partner should respect you enough never to have to borrow money from you. And especially if they try to borrow money from you under pressure. So it feels like they're in an emergency and they need the money right now. They need the money in the next 12 hours. Or something really bad's going to happen, like these kind of high pressure situations. That's a bunch of bullshit. That should not happen in a healthy relationship. Another one is a history of cheating, stealing, swindling, or arrests or even jail time. So as you're getting to know your partner, and by the way, here I'm talking about both guys and girls. So these red flags, some of them apply more to guys, some of them apply more to girls, but it could be a mix, right? So when you're getting to know your partner, as you're dating them, really, be asking them about their history. Be asking them about their history of relationships. Be asking them about their history of business, of work, of friendships, of their life, of their backstory. As you're finding all this stuff out, you're going to be able to see what their character is like. And it's going to be very hard for them to hide everything about themselves, right? So stuff will slip out. So be on the lookout for situations where your partner's telling you some sort of story and he tells you about how he cheated on some tests when he was in school, or how he stole some pencils from the office. Little things. I'm not talking about like he robbed a bank. I mean, that's obvious. If he robbed a bank, then don't be with him. But even if it's little things like he cheated on a test in college, or you see that he stole some pencils or some staplers from his office, or maybe he's kind of a swindler / con artist type, and he likes to kind of con people out of deals through like various trickery or manipulation techniques. Any of this kind of stuff immediately tells you what the character and integrity of this person is, whether it's a guy or a girl. And of course, if this person has any records of arrests or jail time, that tells you everything that you need to know. People like this, who have a history like this, they're not going to reform overnight, all right? And you don't want to be sitting around waiting for them to reform. And these kind of people usually get you into a lot of trouble. Money trouble, trouble with bad friends, bad influences, drugs, like all sorts of stuff is going to go wrong here. Not to mention that if they have this low level of integrity, just think about what's going to happen when it's going to be applied to your relationship, right? A cheat is a cheat is a cheat everywhere. If he cheats on a test, he probably won't think twice about cheating on you. And he probably won't think twice about lying to you or manipulating you in some way, as long as it serves him. So just keep that in mind, right? Judge people by the consistency of their character. Another really good red flag, real tip-off here, is if the person runs a shady business, some sort of half illegal business. I mean, if it's a totally obviously illegal business, like selling drugs, huge red flag, immediate disqualification for a relationship. But if it's kind of borderline and shady, maybe this guy is selling damaged used cars, or he's I don't know, he's swindling people out of money in stock deals, or he's selling sort of shady stocks, or whatever is happening in the business that's kind of shady, that's a huge red flag. Because a person who runs a shady business also runs a shady life, and that comes directly from his or her lack of integrity. So make sure you ask the person, like, what kind of business are you running? What are you doing at work? What kind of products do you sell? How do you service your customers? Like this kind of stuff. You should be asking these kinds of questions over the course of the relationship just to get to know, just in case, is everything above board, or is there shady stuff going on that's semi-legal? And in that case, huge red flag. Okay, another one is a history of short relationships. So as you get to know this person, ask them about their relationship history. You don't need to go into all the painful details and have them tell you all about their previous sex life and stuff, but you can find out what their relationship history was like. Did they have a history of relationships that lasted for years? Or was their longest relationship like 6 months? That's a huge red flag if that's the case. Also, if they've had very, very few relationships, like 1 or 2, that could also potentially be a huge red flag. So watch out for that. And also, of course, if they have a history of very many relationships, like 20 or 30 relationships, that should also tell you that probably something is off there. Another red flag is if they're evasive about their past relationship history. So every time you kind of try to bring it up and you try to ask them, tell me what your first, relationship was like, or tell me who you fell in love with when you were in school. And they just kind of like completely avoid and change topics, and they're very evasive and sketchy about the whole thing. And you can see that, then that's a huge red flag because they're hiding something. Now, maybe they're hiding something embarrassing, or they're hiding something that they haven't coped with themselves. So it's not a complete and 100% disqualifier. People can have legitimate reasons for being evasive about stuff because they might even be denying it to themselves because maybe it was a traumatic event or something they wish they didn't do. They're feeling guilty about it. But generally, you need to be able to have them open up to you, especially after, a bit of a time in the relationship. They should be opening up to you. And if they're always evasive about it, then that's a problem. Speaking of evasiveness, the next red flag is, are they evasive in conversations in general? Not just past relationship history, but maybe you're asking them about their business and they're kind of evasive about telling you about their business. That's a red flag. Or maybe you ask them about their parents and their early family life and they're evasive about that. That's a flag right there, red flag too. So how do you tell evasion? Well, usually the person just kind of like hand waves something away or gives you a glib response or just a vague generality, is being very abstract, kind of shifty eyes, maybe looking downwards, doesn't look you in the eyes, maybe a shaky tone in the voice, this sort of stuff. So watch out for all that stuff because they're concealing something. They're hiding some sort of skeletons in their closet. And the fundamental problem is that they're not being honest with you. They're not opening up to you, which they should be doing in a legit relationship. The next red flag is that this person can't hold on to a job. So find out about the person's job history. Like, when did you get your first job? And how long did you have that one for? And how many jobs have you had in your whole life? And how long were you at your previous job? Was it like 3 months? Is that as long as you can hold the job as for 3 months? That's a problem. It's certainly a problem if a guy can't hold on to a job because the guy's primary value in life is to have a job and to work. But for girls too, you know, I've dated girls who have had difficulty holding on to jobs, and that shows something about the person. That shows that this person is irresponsible. They're not dependable. They're not consistent. They don't have persistence and perseverance. They don't have a results-oriented mindset, or they can't get along with people at work. You know, all these things are just obvious clues to deeper psychological problems that this person has, which will come back and bite you in the ass in your relationship. It's not just a money issue. I'm not saying here that you need this person to hold a job because you want them to pay for you all the time or to support you. No. For example, if I'm with a girl, I don't expect her to support me at all. But if she can't hold on to a job, that means she's going to have her own money problems. I'm going to have to deal with that shit in the future. She's not going to be happy about her life. How can you be happy if you can't hold on to a job? You're going to feel worthless. You're going to be depressed. You're going to be miserable. And more along those lines. Another red flag, this was a big one, is if your partner is losing friends, meaning that friends are leaving your partner. Or if your partner has no friends at all, 0 friends or like 1 or 2 friends. Now, maybe your partner is extremely introverted and therefore doesn't have friends. Or maybe they just moved into town and they don't have friends. And those are legitimate, perhaps, reasons for not having many friends. But especially if you can see that actively friends are leaving and not talking to your partner anymore, that tells you that something's going on there. Somehow, in some way, those friends are not wanting to associate with him or her, and therefore that tells you that you probably shouldn't either. Another big red flag is when your partner expects money, gifts, or favors from you. Are they hinting at the fact that you should be giving them all sorts of fancy clothes and fancy cars and fancy jewels and this and that? If they are, if they're kind of pressuring you, if they're trying to do some sort of bartering exchange in the relationship, like, oh, you buy me a diamond necklace and then I'll do something nice for you tomorrow. This kind of thing. If there's this kind of transactional nature to your relationship, that's a huge red flag. Big problem. Another red flag is chronically showing up late. Once or twice is okay, but if this is happening repeatedly, or if your partner is completely standing you up, that's a big problem. Shows a lack of respect. Also shows that this person is not very responsible. Another red flag is flakiness and forgetfulness. So a lot of times girls can be very flaky. Like you schedule a date or you schedule this or that and then they just completely forget, or they just pretend like they're running through life like a leaf blowing in the wind. Like schedules don't matter to them. They don't adhere to schedules. They don't like schedules. They don't like this. They don't like that. They don't keep time. They don't have a watch, this kind of stuff. This is all excuses for being flaky and for being forgetful. That speaks to deeper character flaws within this person. How are you going to depend on this person longer into the relationship? Right? To have a successful long-term relationship, you need to be able to depend on the person. You need to be able to trust this person. This person needs to have some psychological foundation that will allow them to create success in life. If these people are losers, if your partner is a loser, why are you tolerating that? Next red flag is if your partner is possessive or jealous. Trying to control you, trying to watch your every move, asking you where you're going, who you're hanging out with. Maybe he's insecure about the fact that you've got male friends if you're a woman. And maybe vice versa, the woman is insecure because you've got female friends as the guy. And they're trying to control you and monitor you, all this kind of stuff. That speaks to deep insecurities within them that they need to resolve. Another red flag is that the person is very clingy and is always on call and is always there to answer your phone calls, answer your text messages, and to be there at your doorstep whenever you want. This might sound like a nice quality, to have a partner who's completely loyal to you to the point of being clingy. But this gets real old real fast. And the deeper problem is that it speaks to insecurities within that person. A normal, healthy, psychologically healthy man or woman will not be clingy and constantly on call. A healthy individual is independent, has his or her own life going, has her own job, her own business, her own schedule. She's going to the gym and she's got this to do and that to do. So she's not going to be always on call for you. She's not going to be always answering every one of your text messages within 5 minutes. If she is, that tells you that she's way too clingy. And that's going to come back and bite you real hard in the end. The next red flag is that if this person needs to see you more than 3 times per week and demands to see you almost every day or every other day, or has to call you or has to text you every single day and expects the same from you, otherwise they get pissy and upset and worried and insecure. If that's going on, then this is another symptom of clinginess and insecurity that this person has. Basically, what this says is that this person doesn't have an independent life of his or her own, and therefore this person is completely trying to merge their life with you and into this relationship, and they're trying to get all their fulfillment and love from the relationship, and this creates codependency, which is very dangerous, and it will come back and it will destroy this relationship in the long run. So watch out for that. The opposite of this red flag is the red flag that is like this, that this person is too busy to see you at least once per week. So they give you excuses like, oh, I'm working too much, and I've got school, and I've got this, and I've got that, and I've got a business, and I've got to do this, and I've got to take care of this, and all this stuff. I've got such a busy life, so I can only see you once a month or twice a month. That's way too little. If a person is not willing to invest at least 1 day a week to see you and to hang out with you for at least a few hours per week, then why are they in a relationship in the first place? That means that they're placing this relationship at such a low priority in life that they're probably not willing to invest any energy into it. They're not willing to fix any problems that come up, which will, of course, inevitably come up as they do in all relationships. So this is not a person that you can have a successful relationship with. Also, you're probably going to be frustrated because honestly, if you only see a person once a month or twice a month, you probably want to see them more. You want to build something deeper than just something like that. So keep that in mind. Beware of their excuses. Especially busy workaholic people will give you a lot of excuses. Don't put up with that. You deserve better. The next red flag is that this person is unwilling to learn better communication skills. This is a huge red flag, and I see a lot of women that succumb to this red flag. So what happens is that a guy, usually, for example, their husband or their boyfriend, doesn't want to learn how to communicate better, and he's terrible at communicating, and he refuses to do anything about it. And so he's just kind of stuck in his own place in life, and the girl has to put up with this, and she wants better communication, and there are important issues in the relationship that need to be discussed. Even the guy knows they need to be discussed, but he just doesn't want to work on communication. Now listen, I'm not even telling you that the guy doesn't want to communicate. I'm saying not only does he have to want to communicate, he has to want to improve how he communicates. Why is this such an important point? Because you cannot have a successful long-term relationship without really high-quality communication. Because shit will come up, guaranteed. Problems will come up. And one of the things that kills relationships the most is lack of communication. Stuff gets swept under the rug for so long that a few years down the line, it's impossible to do anything with that relationship. It becomes so toxic and so dysfunctional because nothing is getting communicated, and then it builds up and it's too late. Not only that, but then there's this habit established of, well, we don't communicate and we're not going to learn how to communicate better. You want to start right from the very beginning of your relationship to have very clear, authentic communication channels open. And also you both need to agree to the fact that, hey, we're a team. We got to work on the teamwork here. Teams work on teamwork. You can't be a successful team just by looking out for yourself, the other person looks out for themselves, and then there's no cooperation. Cooperation has to happen, and the person has to be willing to invest energy and time and resources into that. Is the person willing to read a book on communication? Is the person willing to take a seminar? Is the person willing to get some coaching or to watch a video on YouTube with you or whatever? If they're not, then I would suggest ditching this person because this is not going to go anywhere good. Also, an additional point on this is that if the person is unwilling to learn about relationships, how intimate relationships function, if they're unwilling to watch videos or read books with you or go to seminars or listen to audio programs or discuss with you how to improve the relationship, if they're not willing to do this kind of meta relationship work, then this relationship will not last, and it will become a really toxic and dysfunctional relationship in the long run, right? A relationship is like a car. You need to maintain it. Maintenance needs to go into it. Just like anything in life, it deteriorates with time unless it's maintained and even actively improved. So if this person has no desire whatsoever to do personal development work on the relationship itself and to learn how relationships function, because most people have no idea how relationships function. If people are not willing to improve themselves in this area, then they're very bad candidates for long-term relationships. So that's a huge red flag. Another red flag is lies to other people. So do you see that this person lies to others? Maybe not to you, but to others. Like maybe you're sitting in a restaurant with your partner, and then the waitress comes by and she asks him something innocent and he gives her a lie. Now, it might seem like, oh, it's a little white lie, it's not a big deal. But the way that this person interacts with others is how they will interact also with you. If you know that your partner lies in business and lies to his friends and lies to coworkers and lies to random strangers on the street, then guess what he's doing with you? Guess what she's doing with you? Exactly the same thing. This is a really good way to judge character, is just see how this person interacts with others. Another red flag is if this person likes to lie by omission. So this is a special case here, because sometimes what people do is that they get very technical. They get very kind of sneaky about it. And it's like, well, honey, I told you the truth, but, I just held back this one critical fact that changes the whole context of what I told you. So maybe factually what I told you is true, but then the context of it was somehow hidden or somehow said in a way that made that other person look, innocent when they really weren't. So these are kind of like lies by omission or kind of very manipulative use of truth. Like I can be truthful in a very manipulative way where I'll tell you certain things, but I'll omit other things. And then this gives you a perspective on the situation that's very different than what it normally would have been. If you see this person doing it with you, or even just with friends or other people, then that's a huge red flag. Because what this tells you, this person has a fundamentally manipulative personality. He or she likes to manipulate others. And guess what they're doing with you? They're manipulating you. It just has to be that way. Has to be that way. You can't really fake noble character. You can't fake integrity. If a person has strong character and strong integrity, that's like an honest signal, what they call an honest signal. It's a signal that's very difficult to fake because they actually have to have that integrity, right? So it's very easy to spot people who have low integrity if you just watch them for a little bit, for a couple of weeks, couple of months. If you see them interacting, you'll see it. You'll see it. Just be self-honest with yourself about the fact that they are doing this and kind of, be objective about it. Don't just fall head and over heel in love with this person and then just kind of think that they're perfect and they have no character flaws. That's maybe the only place where you would go wrong with that. Another red flag is that this person is always in an emergency situation. There's always something going wrong. They're in a car accident, then they break their foot, then they get fired, then they run out of money, then it's this, then it's that. It's like never-ending emergencies with this person. Watch out for that. That's a huge red flag. tells you that this person is unstable, ungrounded, that they don't fundamentally know how to steer their own life. And it's very miserable to be in a relationship with a person who's always in these emergencies, because then he stresses you out or she stresses you out. You get anxious. They're always coming to rely on you. You have to go fix all these emergencies for them. It's just a real pain in the ass. Another red flag is perfectionism. Is this person hypercritical of everything? Are they critical when they're driving with you in the car all the time? Are they critical about every little thing that every person does to them? If they are, then guess what? They're also hypercritical about you. Maybe they tell you and they throw it in your face. In that case, it's real obvious, they're hypercritical of you. But a lot of times, maybe they're kind of like a quiet perfectionist where they're critical of everybody else, but then with you, they don't really tell you anything critical. And you might think, oh, well, that's okay. He loves me or she loves me. But actually, deep down inside, they're criticizing you so much that they're going to destroy their image of you and any possibility of a good relationship, except you're not going to know about it. So you have to be very careful about that. And a perfectionist, he or she is never going to be satisfied with you. That's the problem. They're never going to settle down with you. They're never going to make a commitment to you because they're always going to be looking for something better out there. And as soon as they see it, they're going to go for it. Another red flag is this person cutthroat in business? Maybe you're dating a guy, and this probably applies most to guys. Maybe you're a girl and you're dating a guy, and this guy is like the corporate CEO type, titan of industry, Wall Street broker, something like this. And this guy's just cutthroat. He screws everybody over. He's a real hard-nosed negotiator. He makes everyone bends over backwards, and he screws people out of deals, and he just puts the pressure on them. He's very litigious. He sues people. He's very quick to threaten people in business, this kind of stuff. That's real dangerous. I wouldn't date a guy like that because this guy will turn on you. What you're dating is you're dating a vicious dog. And this vicious dog, it seems like, oh, it's pretty nice to have a vicious dog because he's biting everybody else. But eventually a vicious dog comes back and bites the owner too. And that's the problem. So watch out for that. Is the person you're dating narcissistic? Are they overly driven by money, power, and fame? If they are, that's a huge problem. First of all, because they're never going to be happy in life by pursuing money and power and fame at the expense of everything else. Also, if they are pursuing money, power, and fame at the expense of everything else, including their integrity, then guess what? At one point in the future, and it might not be too long, they're going to sacrifice you and they're going to sacrifice this relationship in order to acquire more money, more power, and more fame. So you need to be a good judge of the values of this individual. What does this individual value? Do they actually value relationships? Do they value intimacy? Do they value love? If they don't, then what are they doing in a relationship? If their top values are money, power, and fame, that's not going to go anywhere good. And their life is going to be in shambles within a few decades if you stick around. So don't stick around. Another red flag is that this person is completely oblivious to the opinions of other people. Now, this is mostly a problem for guys. So if you're a girl and you're dating a guy and you think this guy is really macho, he's really confident, you're just so in love with him because he's got this granite-like confidence that nothing perturbs him at all. He doesn't give a shit about anybody. People criticize him, he just doesn't care. And because of this, he looks very confident at first. But be very careful, because a guy like this, he's lacking compassion and he's lacking empathy. And that's going to turn around and bite you in the ass really soon. Because guess what? He doesn't care about anybody else. He also doesn't care about you. This is kind of like what a narcissist is, right? So be careful about that. Your guy should have a healthy respect for other people. He should still care about opinions of other people. He should be open to feedback. That's important. Don't just go with a guy who literally doesn't give a shit, because he certainly will not give a shit about you. The next red flag is if the person is calling you foul language names or is yelling at you and raising his voice or her voice at you. So are you being called names like bitch, cunt, asshole, this kind of stuff, any of these kind of names, watch out, because that's getting into verbal abuse. You should not have any arguing to the point where you two are yelling at each other. If it ever gets to the point of yelling and shouting matches, already that's like that's a foreshadow of death to this relationship. It should never get to that point. You two should have a healthy respect for each other, and you should have very open lines of communication so that it never gets to this point. If you are in this situation, then guess what? You're in a dysfunctional relationship, and you're going to have to leave this relationship sooner or later, or it's going to blow up in your face. Another red flag is, does this person snap at other people? Do they have a hot, short temper? Like maybe the waitress brings you guys some food and the order wasn't quite right, and maybe your man gets pissed off at this waitress and calls her a bad name to her face or something like that, gets real hot-tempered with her for something rather innocent. This reveals a lot about your man in this situation, all right? Or your woman, whatever it is. So guess what? If they have this hot temper, it's going to be reflected back on you probably sooner than you think. Does the person that you're with break things, throw things? Do they smash doors? Do they punch holes in walls? Do they throw vases and flower pots at you or at the wall? This kind of stuff. This is completely ridiculous. If this ever happens to you, even once in a relationship, even once, immediate disqualifier. Guaranteed dysfunctional relationship, guarantee that this is not going to end well. This should never, ever, ever happen in a healthy relationship. Does the person that you're with threaten you by telling you they're going to leave the relationship? So maybe you come and you communicate with him or with her, and you tell them something, you're like, hey, baby, I want to work on this, I want to do this, or I have this grievance, or I want you to fix this, or I have some criticism about how this is going, I'm really upset here, or whatever. And then the person says, well, if you're upset about it, I'm just going to leave. Threatening the relationship is an immediate red flag, immediate disqualifier, even if it happens once. It should not happen even once. Be very careful about this. Because what's going to happen is that if the person threatens to leave, and then you get scared and you back down because of that, then what is going to happen is that that person will then use that against you for the rest of your life. Because they will know that you backed down and that you're more afraid of losing this relationship than they are. And so they'll just keep threatening you and end up bullying you for the rest of the relationship, and it's going to go real bad, right? Be very careful about that one. That's a subtle one. That one happens more than you might think. And most people will kind of tolerate that because they think like, oh, it's not too bad. It's not too bad that they threatened me. No, it's quite bad. Another red flag is if this person blames you for everything. So maybe you come to this person and you say, hey, honey, I have this problem in our relationship. Let's work on this. Let's work on that. And the person just points his finger at you and says, no, it's your fault. You did this and you're doing that. And it's all this and it's all that. And all my problems are here, are your problems. It's all because of you, the way that you're acting. It's all because of your behavior. It's all because of your character flaws and defects. Then that's a big problem. You and your partner both need to take 100% responsibility for your half of the relationship. That means that instead of blaming your partner, first of all, you blame yourself. Not blame's a bad word, but more like take responsibility yourself. Always take responsibility yourself. Always resist blaming the other person. And the other person should be doing the exact same thing. If those barriers break down and you start blaming each other, this is probably one of the most common causes of destroyed relationships is mutual finger pointing and refusal to take responsibility. Another red flag is psych medications. Is the person you're dating on psych medications? Medications for depression, for anxiety, for schizophrenia, for bipolar disorder, this kind of stuff. Find out. That's hugely important for you to know. If your man or woman has psychological problems, if they're seeing a psychotherapist, or a psychiatrist, a pharmacologist, whatever, and they're loaded up on these drugs create a lot of problems. I really wouldn't be dating a person who's on these kinds of medications. It will screw up their emotions. They will not be clear thinking. It also shows me that they're not really willing to work through their problems the hard way. They're looking for shortcut solutions. Now if it's a very temporary thing, like their father just died and they're depressed and they need a couple of months of medications to kind of hold them over, that's okay. But if they've been on psych meds for quite a while, then that's a huge red flag. Another red flag is long-distance relationships. Be careful about this one. I'll shoot a whole video on this in the future. But what I'll say about it now is that if you're in a long-term, long-distance relationship and the person is unwilling to move near you, or you're unwilling to move near them, and you have a plan for closing that gap, then that tells you that there's a huge problem somewhere in there. Both of you are insecure on some level, because otherwise you'd go date people that are closer to you. Both of you are probably needy. And maybe both of you don't want to invest energy into this relationship. Or maybe one of you doesn't. Like maybe you want to move closer to him or to her, but she doesn't want you to. Well, that's a huge red flag. Long-term, long-distance relationships do not work. They don't last. So if you're going to have a long-distance relationship for 6 months because you two are separated because your guy or your girl had to go and, work overseas for a short period of time for the company's sake, okay, that's fine. Because there's a plan that 6 months later you're going to close that gap. But if there's no plan and you're doing this long-term indefinite relationship thing, that's a huge red flag. And lastly, if the person tells you, I want to continue seeing other people, quote, seeing other people. If they ever tell you this is a huge red flag too. This basically tells you that they're not committing to you. They are not really in love with you. They are keeping their options open, and they want to not be guilty about doing it. So watch out for this one. A lot of times guys will do this to girls. So if you're a lady, keep your eye open for it and don't put up with it, because you probably don't want that and you probably deserve better. All right, so pretty long list. Now at this point you might wonder, okay, well, Leo, so my partner isn't perfect. Do you expect me to have a perfect partner? Otherwise I'm going to be lonely and miserable my whole life? What should I do here? And the answer is, it's really not too much to ask. You might be thinking like, well, Leo, you're asking for too much. I mean, I can't just ask for all. You mentioned like 40 things. I can't ask all these 40 things of my partner. Inevitably he's going to check off one or two of them, right? Or she will. And the answer is, some of the red flags I mentioned here are not 100% deal breakers. A lot of them are. Honestly, a lot of them are. And it's not too much to ask that a person can hold down a job and doesn't cheat and doesn't steal and is willing to work on you with communication skills and, doesn't constantly show up late and stand you up and isn't narcissistic and power hungry and cutthroat in business. It's not too much to ask for these things. And at the very least, this person, I'm not saying that this person has to be flawless, but at the very least, this person has to recognize his or her flaws and be willing and open to work on them. So if you come to your partner and say, hey, honey, I think it's a real problem that I feel like, you're very power hungry and eventually it's going to lead to the destruction of this relationship. And the person says, oh shit, you're right. I think I am power hungry. I need to fix that. I'll work on fixing it. I'll make a plan. I'll buy some books. I'll get some coaching. I'll watch some videos, whatever. If that's the discussion, then that's fine. The person can work on their flaws in the relationship. That's good. You can grow together. But if what they do is they just say, no, I'm power hungry. What are you talking about, you stupid bitch? If that's the discussion that's going on there, then that's a huge red flag. The person has to be willing to grow, in a nutshell. So what do you do if some of these red flags are checked? Well, basically you cut this person out of your life. That's the right option. Cut this person out of your life and don't think twice about it. Your life is too short to piss it away on dysfunctional relationships that you know are dysfunctional and are not going to work out. It's nerve-wracking. It saps you of your happiness and energy. It might lead to some really nasty things in the future, like abuse, you losing a lot of your money, all sorts of bad stuff. Like, you don't even want to go there. The fact that you would even consider the possibility of leaving yourself open to some of these really nasty consequences already tells you that there's some deeper issues within you that you need to work out. Insecurities, perhaps low self-esteem. A lot of times low self-esteem is a real big cause of staying in toxic relationships. But I think the biggest reason that people are afraid to cut their partner out of the relationship and just to flat out leave is because they lack options with the opposite sex. So, this means you need to create more options. You need to have a reasonable chance to land a new guy or a new girl. Otherwise, you're going to get very clingy and insecure in any relationship that you're in. If you feel like if you leave this relationship and then you're never going to ever be able to meet a new guy or a new girl, or it's going to take you another 10 years, or anybody that you find is going to be even worse than this person that you're already with, if you have any of those kinds of thoughts, then that tells you that you lack sexual options. You need to be meeting more men or more women, whatever's right for you, and you need to commit to creating more of those options. This is not an accident. You can actually take control of how many men and women you meet per month in your life. And the more of them you meet, then the less clingy and insecure you're going to feel, and the less need you're going to have to stay in this dysfunctional relationship. People who stay in dysfunctional relationships, they stay there because they feel like there's no other alternative and that they're never going to find something better. So what I want to do here now is I want to wrap up with an exercise for you. I'm going to give you 4 sentence completion stems that will help you to be more conscious and aware about what's really going on here in your relationship. All right? So take out a piece of paper and a pen and write these down. And what you're going to do is after you write each one of them down is you're going to generate 10 answers for each one of these sentence completion stems. So here's the first one. It goes like this. If I were totally honest, my partner's red flags are blank. If I were totally honest, my partner's red flags are blank. And then you fill in the blank. And what you need to do is generate 10 answers from the top of your mind without over-analyzing them. So literally this should take you 2 minutes maximum. You just ask the question and then whatever pops into your mind immediately, you write that down without analyzing it or filtering it. This exercise helps to get wisdom out of your subconscious mind. All right? Don't be too calculating about what your answers are. Just write them down. It's kind of like a mental dump. All right, so you're going to do that. Then write down this next stem. It goes like this. The biggest thing I fear about leaving my partner is blank. The biggest thing I fear about leaving my partner is blank. And again, you're going to generate 10 answers real quickly without filtering yourself, whatever pops into your mind. So you read the stem and then you write down the answer. You read the stem again, you write down the second answer, and so on and so forth. The third stem is as follows. If I took 100% responsibility for my relationship, I would blank. If I took 100% for my responsibility for my relationship, I would blank. Okay? And again, you're going to generate 10 answers real quickly without overanalyzing. And then the final stem is the following. 20 ways that I could create more sexual options are blank. 20 ways that I could create more sexual options are blank. And for this one, instead of 10, you're going to generate 20 answers. So really sit on this one. You can sit for a little bit longer and you can actually brainstorm and really think deep about ways that you could improve your attractiveness to the opposite sex or to the same sex if you're into the same sex, whatever, I don't care. How could you increase your attractiveness? How could you increase your exposure so that you're meeting more people? How could you be dating more? Whatever that takes, write down 20 ideas. They can be little ideas, they can be huge ideas. Maybe moving to another city, that might be one idea. Maybe getting a new haircut, new idea. Maybe losing 20 pounds, new idea. Maybe going to a networking event once a month, new idea. Come up with 20 of those. And then sit back, look at all your answers, reflect on them all. Think about all these red flags. Be very self-honest here. Don't lie to yourself about what your partner's weaknesses are. You know your partner. Your deepest intuition knows if this relationship really has legs, if it really has a chance. All that I did here is I kind of helped put you in touch with that. All right? So act on it. Don't deflect it. Don't sweep it under the rug. If you've got a toxic, dysfunctional relationship, fix it now. And you know what? Your first step doesn't have to be to go cut this person out of your life. The first step, honestly, should be to go talk to this person about it and see if they're receptive to fixing the problem. Are they willing to work on communication skills? Are they willing to work on relationship skills with you? Those are two key things right there. If they're not willing to do those things, then that's when you cut. But if they're honestly willing to change, then you can give them that chance and see if they're going to change. All right, that's it. I'm signing off. Go ahead. Please click the like button for me. Share this video with a friend. Post your comments down below. And finally, come sign up to my newsletter right here at Actualized.org. It's a free newsletter. I release new videos on self-actualization topics every single week. I really want to help you to understand your own psychology and the psychology that's necessary to master life. Think of what your life could be like if you really commit to excellence and growth and personal development in every aspect of your life, from relationships to your finances, to your mood, to your career, and everything else. This is what life is really about. It's about learning. It's about growing yourself. It's about taking yourself to new levels, pushing your comfort zone, and doing that as a challenge. So Actualized.org is here to support you in that effort emotionally. The biggest challenge with it is it's emotionally difficult. It's hard. You fall off track. You forget. You procrastinate. You backslide. You have resistance. You have fear. All this kind of stuff. You come up with excuses. I go through all that same stuff myself as I'm self-actualizing. So what I do with Actualized.org is I try to point out the obstacles that I encounter, that most people encounter, that I encounter in my research as I research all this psychology. And helping you to see those obstacles, giving you some tips and techniques and solutions to overcome those obstacles, to get you to your highest potential in life. What I want to do is I want to help more people tap into the highest pleasures in life, the higher consciousness pleasures. And you can't do that unless you understand the principles by which your psychology works. So if you're on board with that idea, which I hope you are, sign up to the free newsletter, and I'll see you soon with more episodes.